Hello, Home Slice. This is Kiara with Home Slice Adulting coming to you with just a voiceover this time around. I'm actually not in a good place to actually do a video, so I figured that instead of giving you guys the review late, that I would figure out a way to do it so that I could be more on top of these videos like I promised that I would be. So, let's go ahead and get started with the review for Real Housewives of Atlanta, Season 9, Episode 10, titled Uncharitable Behavior. First off, we start off with Phaedra. Aiden is helping Phaedra tie-dye t-shirts that have hashtag #FixItJesus on it to be sold at the pop-up shop for charity. Aiden is going to be selling cookies, and we see Cynthia calls and asks 1,000,001 questions about what's happening at this pop-up shop. But, if we remember correctly, Cynthia wasn't able to attend the event that Phaedra originally asked everyone to help out with the pop-up shop. So that's why she had so many questions. But anyways, next, we see Sheree. She's looking for wall coverings. Apparently, Michelle, her interior designer, is only showing her wall coverings from Europe because he's trying to jack up the price. And so she is finally putting her foot down now that she is $100,000 over budget and has decided to shop locally for them. So Michelle was originally supposed to meet her to look at these wall coverings, but he sends Marlo in his stead because apparently he can't be there. So, they're looking at the wall coverings and they start to catch up, and Marlo talks about how her relationship with Kenya has kind of deteriorated. Now, Marlo says that Kenya is fake and phony, and she says that Kenya called Marlo to ask for her advice on how to decorate her birthday party, but she didn't invite Marlo to the actual birthday party, which is very sucky. But Marlo thinks it's because Nene was there, because Marlo had seen a picture of Nene at Kenya's birthday party on Instagram or something. And so she was saying that, I guess Kenya has a hierarchy of friends, and since Nene came, Marlo couldn't come. But they end up throwing shade about Moore Manor because Marlo also was not invited to the housewarming. So, yeah, Marlo's back. Y'all, just a disclaimer, I'm not a huge fan of Marlo. I think that she's extremely shallow and that she only cares about her fashions and the way things look. I'm glad that she has never officially become a part of the cast because she doesn't add anything. I mean, she doesn't really have relationships that would make her interesting. She's just one of those hangers-on characters, and I think she should stay that way. But moving on, we have Kenya, who is on her way back from Charlotte, and she's pulling up, and there's this dramatic buildup. The camera crew was already there, so I'm assuming that they told her that there was some damage that had been done to the house. So she gets there and she sees that there's glass and blood everywhere in the garage. She sees that her back windshield on her Range Rover has been knocked out. The glass side door has been shattered, and the cameras have been spray painted. And I'm thinking she actually needs to stop with the glass garage door. It looks good and everything, but she may have to switch to a regular people garage door if he keeps knocking out the windows. But anyways, the point is that the man is extra crazy, and everything that he has done has just been escalating. First it was just a door, first it was just the windows on the garage, now it has escalated to her windshield and glass door and spray painting the cameras. He's getting more and more crazy and more clever and cunning, and Kenya doesn't seem to understand that his behavior is extremely unacceptable and that she needs to leave him alone. And so we see that when she calls Candy. And y'all, Candy has a ringback tone. Does anybody remember ringback tones? Nobody since like 2004 has had a ringback tone. I was like, why? But anyways, Kenya apparently is Captain Saberbro, and she feels obligated to help Matt. Now, the problem is that she's not equipped to help a grown man overcome anger issues, especially when she has the type of behavior and the type of attitude that makes his anger worse instead of calms him down. But whatever. Candy is telling her, you need to just go ahead and leave him alone. This type of behavior is unacceptable. And what would your dad say? And, she said that her dad would tell her to get a restraining order, but Kenya is convinced that the restraining order wouldn't do anything and that Matt, wouldn't, the restraining order wouldn't mean anything to Matt. But, anyways, Candy even offers up her house to Kenya if Kenya needs to get away for a few days. So we see how that goes in a little bit. So next up, we see Kenya going to see Phaedra. So Kenya goes to see Phaedra at her office. They discuss the pop-up shop, and Phaedra settles on 50% of the proceeds for the pop-up shop donations that are going to go to the kids in Flint, Michigan. So Kenya ends up getting emotional about the thing that happened with Matt and him knocking out all the windows, and she tells Phaedra about it, and Phaedra is actually genuinely concerned. And I think it's very, very interesting that their relationship went from what it was to what it is now. Now, Kenya asked about how Phaedra dealt with Apollo, knowing that Apollo was hot-tempered. And while I thought that was a little bit shady, Phaedra didn't seem to mind answering questions about her relationship with Apollo. And now Phaedra says that she never saw crazy Apollo when they were dating. She didn't see that part of him until the end. But she was like, once you get married, they feel like they got you, and now they can truly be who they are. And Kenya was surprised that Phaedra said that she was, sharing so much. And I was a little surprised at that too, especially sharing it with Kenya, who was actually a pretty big part of the reason why Phaedra and Apollo's relationship kind of fell apart. But Phaedra actually encouraged Kenya to try to go to counseling with Matt, while everyone else, in the world really is saying that Kenya should just leave Matt alone totally. Now, I don't know if Phaedra knows about everything that have happened between Matt and Kenya, but I thought it was interesting that she encouraged them to go to counseling instead of just cutting the relationship off totally. But anyways, Phaedra says a little prayer for Kenya, and Phaedra actually got a little emotional while she was praying, and I think it was because she genuinely felt like, she had sympathy for Kenya. So that was very interesting. But anyways, we move on to Cynthia. We see Cynthia moving out of her old house, but there's a problem moving into the lake house. So the original appraisal for the lake house was almost $1 million. The second appraisal, however, was like $300,000 less than the original appraisal, and Cynthia doesn't want to have to pay so much more for the house than it's actually worth. So they have to wait on a third appraisal, and the problem with that is apparently it takes weeks. So unfortunately, they are kind of homeless until they can get that third appraisal and finish closing on the house. So Cynthia's talking with Noelle, and she says that they can stay with Barbara or Kenya, and Cynthia doesn't want her and Noelle to stay with Kenya because Matt is acting a plumb fool. So next we see Candy. We're at Candy's house, and Candy's playing with Ace when Kenya arrives. Kenya ended up not filing a restraining order, but she says that her and Matt don't have a future until she figures out what else is going on with him. Candy says Candy really apparently didn't mean it when she offered Kenya a place to stay. But anyways, Cynthia comes over, and apparently Kenya had invited Cynthia over, and Cynthia doesn't have a place to stay because of all the stuff I just talked about. So Kenya figured that both Kenya and Cynthia can stay in the guest house. And Candy just didn't seem to be on board with that at all, really. And so they were already trying to figure out who is sleeping where, how big is the house, how many bathrooms does it have, who's getting a bigger bedroom. So Candy was just a little overwhelmed. She wasn't into having so many house guests all at once. But apparently Cynthia got read in the text message that Phaedra had sent about the pop-up shop. and saying that, 50% of the proceeds were going to go to the foundation. And in the text message, Phaedra said, we all have foundations and, charitable organizations, but for this one, it's going to be 50%. And so Cynthia said that according to Sheree, Phaedra originally gave a smaller figure than 50%. And the problem is that I don't remember Phaedra even saying anything about a figure originally. And that's what Candy said. Phaedra never really gave a number. Now, Cynthia was saying that Sheree is a human tape recorder. And that Sheree typically brings things back exactly how, the way they were said. And Candy was like, no, that's not true. And Cynthia was like, well, what did she bring back that wasn't true? And, if y'all remember, Sheree was the one who blew that whole black baby in an orphanage thing out of proportion in South Africa. So when it comes to Candy, Sheree be bringing stuff back incorrectly. But anyway, she says that she had a sit down with Portia and Sheree, and apparently Sheree, made it seem like Candy said that Portia had slept with Block, which, it to me wasn't really a big deal. But, Candy did not say that Portia had slept with Block, so Sheree did indeed bring back something incorrectly. But anyways, Kenya asked if Block was the one that gave Portia the golden shower, being messy and bringing up something from last season, but whatever. So next we see all the ladies meeting up together to get set up for the pop-up shop. Not set up, to kind of get the lay of the area, to figure out where everybody is going to set up. Candy starts throwing shade about Portia's short hair and how it's to stop somebody from yanking her hair when she attacks them in the alley. Kenya throws shade about Sheree not actually having anything to really sell. And that's going to be really funny when we actually get to the proceeds portion of who contributed what after the pop-up shop was over. Now, next, they have a discussion about 50%, and they decide that 50% of the net is what each person is going to give her for the foundation. Next, they found out that Kenya is going to go to the camp. And it makes sense for Kenya to go to Michigan because, of course, she was, Miss Michigan for that pageant that she won. But apparently nobody knew that. And Portia especially seemed unhappy about it. But after that, Portia kind of was throwing shade at Candy about having a dildo wall. But Candy shaded her back about Candy's business actually being successful. So I don't know how successful Portia's businesses are, but apparently Candy knows a little bit about it and shaded her. But anyways, we see Portia and Phaedra doing, a little radio thing at Dish Nation for the pop-up shop, just to encourage people to come out and, give to charity. So that was good. So the last thing that we see is the actual pop-up shop. We see everybody getting set up. Kenya's booth is the most extravagant. Sheree's is the least decorated, and Kenya finds that hilarious. Next, we see Portia's booth is just as ornate as Kenya's, but Kenya offers her shady help to make sure that it's set up properly. But everyone apparently is kind of getting along, even Candy and Phaedra. So Kenya is shading weaves, talking about how, her booth is directly across from Portia's, but they have, even though they both have booths that have something to do with hair, one of them is about weaves, and the other one is about growing your actual hair. But anyways, everybody's selling their stuff. They seem to be doing pretty well. And then Apollo's mom and stepdad show up. And for the first time, we see that Phaedra actually has a good relationship with his parents. Next, we see Marlo shows up, and she goes straight past Kenya to Cynthia. Now, the whole Marlo and Kenya thing, I'm over it because I really don't care for Marlo. But anyways, Sheree claims that she doesn't care what happens between Kenya and Marlo, but she's very messy, so I actually think she does care. But anyways, Marlo feels like she should have been invited to Kenya's birthday party and housewarming because they've been friends for 3 years. And I was like, really? Has it been that long? But whatever. She said it was unacceptable to her. Marlo calls Kenya Nene Jr., and it seems like Kenya threw Marlo away when it stopped being beneficial for her to be around. And that's the same thing that Nene did to her. So, you know, as much as I don't like Marlo, I think that she did kind of have a point. Now, Kenya, I thought, was trying to be apologetic and, you know, and she was actually being honest, saying, you know, I really don't have an excuse for why I didn't invite you to those events. And I think that she was trying to say that, you know, the past 3 years, I've been a pretty good friend to you. Things have just kind of gotten shaky a little while ago. And I think Kenya was trying to smooth things over, but Marlo was not having it. And so Marlo was fed up, and she says that Kenya basically needs to read the Bible and become a better person. And Marlo walks away and starts, you know, cursing and starts cursing when she just encouraged somebody to go read the Bible, but whatever. So Kenya apparently is over it in the confessional, and she shades Marlo for being an escort, which we all kind of know is true, but whatever. So lastly, we'll talk about the proceeds. Now, Candy ends up giving Phaedra the most money. Apparently, they brought, Bedroom Candy brought $5,000 worth of merchandise. So Candy said regardless of what they sold that day, they were going to give Phaedra $2,500 because that's 50% of the amount of the merchandise that they brought. Now, Portia decided that because it was such a great cause, she was going to give 100% of the proceeds of her sales, and on top of that, an additional $1,000 from, you know, herself, which I thought was very sweet. The total overall was $7,541.83. Kenya, now this is the funny part to me. Kenya, with her extravagant booth, gave $450. But Sheree, with her non-extravagant booth, gave $595. That's $145 more than Kenya gave. Now, a few things could have happened. Sheree could have felt like the proceeds were not large enough for her to take 50%, so she could have given 100% of her proceeds, but that doesn't sound like Sheree. Or Sheree actually did outsell Kenya after Kenya shaded the crap out of her for having the least to give. So whatever. And Cynthia contributed $1,000. So even though it wasn't the $10,000 goal that Phaedra had originally wanted, they came closer, you know, than I thought they would. So I think they did a pretty good job. So next time on Real Housewives of Atlanta, we have Kenya and Phaedra going to camp. We have Bob getting nasty and throwing on some type of nasty show for Sheree. Portia gets real with Todd for like the first time. Kenya tries to inspire kids, you know, the Flint, Michigan kids at the camp. And all of the girls get together and Portia has a fit. And they were real cryptic about it. We don't know what the actual topic was that she got mad about. But the thing is that we have been waiting for this one episode the whole time. And they're going to wait till episode 11 to give us the actual episode that we've been waiting for. But whatever. Thank you guys for watching. Sorry for the different format that I had to come to you with today. It's just, it wasn't conducive, you know, for me to actually get in front of the camera and do all that stuff. I needed something a little bit more convenient because my schedule is changing now that school has started back up. So thank you guys for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys next time. Peace out, home slices.